Nigeria's aviation sector is once again in the spotlight as the federal government unveils an ambitious plan to invest in the Lagos airport's infrastructure. This move follows growing concerns about the aging facilities, safety standards, and the airport's capacity to handle increasing traffic as West Africa's aviation hub. The Murtala Mohammed International Airport, once a symbol of Nigerian pride, has seen decades of underinvestment, bureaucratic delays, and controversial concessions. Now, with the federal government's rebuilding agenda, critical questions arise. Is this investment driven by real strategy or just politics? Will this rebuild genuinely serve passengers, workers, and the aviation industry, or will it simply benefit a select few? This is where I welcome you to Politics Uncensored, where we break the silence, challenge the system, and demand accountability. Today, we take a closer look at what this development means for the economy, national image, and Nigeria's role in the African aviation space. Our goal will always be to provide a platform for open and honest discussions where experts and everyday citizens like you can share their perspectives and insights. It's always going to also be your favorite show, and we have two expert guests who will be joining us very soon. I'm your host, Okikiola Taiwo Jalukpo, and you can call me the polyhumanitarian. And I'll always be here to make political discussions accessible to you all. We want to hear from you because all of our episodes is all about you. So be a part of our conversations every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays to add your voice to these discussions. You can also head on to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV, hit the subscribe button, like, share, and invite your friends to join the show right now. Our phone lines are also open to you. You can call us on 070-2500-7749 and 070-142420. Let's hear what you have to say. We'll go on a quick break right now and, of course, return with our guests and take our top stories in the political space making headlines. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back. You are still watching Politics Uncensored, and today we're here to discuss the federal government's plan to invest in the Lagos airport infrastructure, and they have unveiled the rebuilding plans. And Nigeria's aviation's flagship, Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos, is set for a once-in-a-generation overhaul. On August 1st, 2025, the Federal Executive Council approved 712.26 billion naira for a complete strip-down and rebuild of Terminal 1, funded through the Renewed Hope Infrastructure Development Fund. The contract was awarded to China's Civil Engineering Construction Corporation, popularly known as CCECC. This project marks part of a 900 billion aviation upgrade plan across Nigeria. The Lagos package includes enhancement to Terminal 2, apron expansion, new access road, bridges, runway, taxiways, lightning, upgrades to Cat 2 lead, and a 49.9 billion, 414.6 kilometer perimeter fence with an advanced intrusion detection system. Lagos. Anyway, they also include CCTV, floodlights, and a command center. Well, joining us today to unpack the federal government's ambitious plan to overhaul the Lagos airport infrastructure are two seasoned experts who bring both policy depth and industry sides to the table. We have Dr. Salahuddin Hashim, who is a respected public policy analyst, governance reform advocate, and thought leader on institutional development in Nigeria. With years of experience in advising on national development frameworks, Dr. Hashim is known for a sharp evidence-based critique on public investment decisions, especially where infrastructure meets accountability. Also with us is Olumide Ohunayo, the General Secretary of the Aviation Safety Roundtable Initiative, known as ART, a high-impact industry think tank focused on safety, transparency, and sustainable aviation development. A trusted voice in the Nigerian aviation sector, Mr. Ohunayo brings decades of practical expertise on policy. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have both of you here on the show because it's usually Nigerian conversations is always wrapped around very key issues. And the show is more like a platform for us to have these kind of decisions where it's rarely had in other platforms. So thank you, Olumide, and of course, Dr. Salaudin, for being here. I want your insight on one of the story, and from there we'll go straight into our topic for today. And it has to do first with Keyamo coming with a conversation saying Wi-Fi coming to MM1 Terminal 2 by late 2025. And Keyamo is promising that. He says the passengers at the MM1 airport can now look forward to functional Wi-Fi services, at least in Terminal 2, by late 2025. This assurance was given by the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development during a live interview on one of the popular stations, where he shed light on the long-standing issues of internet connectivity at the nation's aviation hub. But I can't go so much into this story, but I first want to hear from Olumide. Sometimes when I saw this story, I was like, Wi-Fi of all things. Why should Wi-Fi be something of a headline when it's supposed to have become a norm? In many other countries, in many other states, we see their airports being very well equipped with proper toilets, proper connectivity, proper passage. But Lagos Airport sort of comes with another angle entirely. So I want to hear from you. From this story, what do you think about it? From this story, what do you think about it?
I share your belief. Anyway, let me do this myself. My name is Olumide Onwayo, the General Secretary. So that name is Onwayo, yes.
Okay, Onwayo. Thank you for the correction.
Onwayo, yeah. 10 of joy. Yeah, but let's go. Coming back to the issue, I think the issue of having Wi-Fi at the airport should be a given and not seen as a luxury or as an external service you are rendering to your passengers. It should be a given at an international airport, a flagship airport for that matter. That's the airport that is generating almost 40% of the total revenue of FAN. So if that airport needs to increase its revenue generation and contribute to the economy, they will need to you need to allow the airport to be modernized. You need to allow the airport to meet the international standard, and Absolutely. That should be. I did not see any news in that Wi-Fi. It should be a given. But why it's looking like a news is that there has been this permanent and recurring and also irritating struggle between the Nigerian Airspace Management Agency and the Federal Port Authority of Nigeria over who should provide the Wi-Fi services within the airport. Normal this with communication, area communication, and they feel they have the sole authority, and they've been on it back and forth, and that's why you are seeing this lockdown. But I'm happy to hear that he has resolved it. I just hope it will be a permanent feature. Even the one at the MMIA, it's come sir. It's not always available. So I think they should use the opportunity to correct whatever error are normally in place to ensure that passengers arriving at the airport can at least call their loved ones to say, I'm on ground, this is where I am, where you can meet me, rather than begin to use mobile phones of just carrying trolleys and other passengers. I think we need to work on that, and it's a shame, though, that we don't have it.
Thank you very much, Olumide. I'm glad that you also shared that belief. And now that NAMA knows that your part of your job is to provide Wi-Fi services, and they have included it in the budget allocation, I believe now we'll have a clearer part into who to hold accountable if our Wi-Fi services don't work at the airport. I would also love to quickly hear from Dr. Salaudin if you have a different take or similar take to this current news.
I mean, while I appreciate the fact that it is actually a very useful infrastructure to have, I think what is most fundamental is the deficit around maintenance culture. Yes, across some airports in Nigeria, both international, Lagos, domestic, you have some of these provisions already installed. But again, functionality is a very big problem. These things don't work the way it is expected. So, and we know too well that in this country, it is not basically the dearth of ideas that is actually the challenge or the setback. But again, it is a function of how we operationalize them. And the challenge for me is that over a period of time, would this not be another conduit for public resources? Because again, Wi-Fi requires either monthly or annual subscription. So if people take subscriptions on an annual basis to a particular amount and they don't actually get those Wi-Fi to function, the question is, what is the reporting channel? Already we have issues that borders around services that are not efficient and that are not responsive. But again, I am seeing that while it is a welcome development, what is the monitoring infrastructure that is put in place to ensure the functionality? And I think the Minister of Aviation has got some very good ideas, which he's trying to apply. Yes, they are very welcome. Every modern airports across the globe parade these kinds of infrastructure. But again, the Nigerian culture is about whether or not it is not an additional line item that people can therefore take money from as we move on. I hope not, but I am thinking that there should be an adequate monitoring system that allows for either the heads of these airports to be aware when these things are not working. But again, when efficiency are not even working at the various airports, how do we get relief or reprieve? I think, again, there's a need for public confidence to be built around some of these things for purposes of national development.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salaudin. And your concerns are very valid because maintenance culture in almost every aspect of the Nigerian system is something that we continue to fight. It's almost like a witch that wouldn't leave us be. But yes, that's all we can take on the political news for today. We'll go on a break and, of course, return with our hot topic for today. So viewers, do not go anywhere. We'll be right back shortly. This conversation concerns you.
Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population and with little or no meaningful engagement leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.
Life is made up of moments, some that fill us with joy, others that test our strength. Welcome to Heartlines. This is our space to explore the highs and lows of human connection, the love, the heartbreak, and resilience that shapes our life. From relationships to friendships, parenting to partnerships, and so much more. Every week, we share stories and conversations that define us, navigating love, separations, the struggles of parenting, dealing with anxiety and managing the pressures and stress of life. Real conversations that bring us closer, helping us heal, grow, and connect. So join me Mondays through Fridays at 10 p.m. for Heartlines, the show where we'll connect hearts, have real conversations with real people, one story at a time.
Thank you for staying tuned. If you just tuned in, you are still watching Politics Uncensored, and we are here discussing the federal government plans to invest in the Lagos airport infrastructure, and they have unveiled, the rebuilding plans. We still have Olumide and Dr. Salaudin here. Let me start with Dr. Salaudin. From a public policy perspective, what would you make of the federal government's decision to rebuild and invest in Lagos airport infrastructure, especially now? Do you think this is a step in the right direction or a political move wrapped in development language?
All right, thank you very much. I think globally there are templates for that suggest the indicator for an advanced state. And of course, for you to be a civic center and a center of attraction, there are infrastructure that you must have actually put in place to invest, to attract investors. If you travel, for instance, to Addis, to the airport, and you travel through Kotoka and, of course, perhaps maybe even in Lome, you will find out that some of these airports have attracted wide range of investors because of the infrastructure they have. It is very unfortunate that over the period where we have enjoyed oil windfall, that we have not been able to develop our airports to attract and become the hub for aviation on the continent, to say that Addis in Ethiopia and, of course, perhaps in other countries, they have been able to advance in this stage. I think it is something that breaks the heart of every Nigerian. But again, the best time to rejig again is now. But I have a number of concerns, one of which is that, yes, we are going to invest in infrastructure. But I think beyond infrastructure, every investor wants to see efficiency, service delivery, and of course, see some level of responsiveness to consumers. And what do we have in terms of how consumers are actually treated? This for me are more critical because for you to be able to provide a facelift, the first thing you need to deal with are the cultures that actually allows for investors to either want to leave or that actually takes them aback. And we remember the story of Virgin Atlantic. He came to Nigeria with an intention to invest. As a matter of fact, the investment, I think, began to operate. But at some point, he packed up his bag and left. And why was that? Because he cited a number of bureaucratic impunities within the system that actually discouraged him in terms of advancing in his investment in Nigeria. And I think it is very important for government to, first of all, take a look at those cultural intrinsic setbacks that we need to deal with. Then we can, from the inside out, begin to take care of our infrastructure refurbishment. And what do we need to deal with? When you go to the airports, particularly in Lagos and anywhere in the country, one of the things that actually is very popular that greets you are the personnel that walk around the airports and their culture of always wanting to extort you. Both from the international wing to the domestic wing. The culture of, Oga, what did you bring? Welcome. And
Happy
this
Sunday.
overtly kind of for me is actually an issue. Even if you visit the restroom, from the restroom you will hear people whose work is actually to clean and keep stuff. And I think the minister might be listening, is that these guys will keep the servants and the detergent somewhere, and they pretend to want to be nice to you, bring them out for you to use. At the end of the day, they start greeting you properly, and that in itself is to blackmail you for the services they just recently rendered by giving you what ordinarily should be provided. I think we need to, first of all, take care of those practices, those cultures that actually puts us in a bad light, those cultures that actually deter investors, those cultures and practices that investors see and they don't want to actually put their monies here. That, for me, will be the first way to go. And then, of course, yes, what we are trying to do is good. Perhaps, again, we need to do them side by side. But my only concern is if you put an infrastructure, which is like a new wine in an old bottle, the culture will be that what therefore has changed. And the question that readily comes to mind, which is the second layer for me, is that what is the intention of government around this infrastructure refurbishment or reconstruction? Is it for purposes of just a facelift? If it is just for facelift, it therefore means that it has no economic value. But if this investment, which I think the minister should put on the table, is to say, look, for the next 5 years, it is expected that this investment would have actually attracted investors, and of course, the government would have actually made more money from different kinds of other activities within the airport environment. That would make some sense to me, because it would mean that we are running government like a business, which therefore will give us to know what the strategic plan of this whole process should look like. But again, if it is just for the sake of political, cosmetic, and then of course just making it find some level of attraction or to have some scorecard without a deliberate development intention, then there is a problem. The third one rather would be, does this infrastructure shift has an intention of making Lagos, which is already a commercial nerve, some sort of a cargo airport for exports? Because I think, again, there should be a linkage between the environment in Lagos and the activity. And also remember that we have a free trade zone in Lagos.
Absolutely.
The free trade zone should be able to fit into the operations of this expansion, so that at least government can also use that to attract additional revenue. Recall that, again, we have the seaport in Lagos, and we have quite a whole lot of cargo movement around there. So what are the kind of linkages we are having with this new infrastructure, with the existing opportunities that we have in Lagos? I think beyond passengers, we should also begin to think of goods and services, and how this airport investment can also help to advance this cause. Most of the politically exposed persons that we know today have private jets. All of these private jets are parked in the wings that you see. As a matter of fact, studies has Nigeria has the highest number of private jets in the world. And I think there's a need for government to be very deliberate. How do you begin to harness all of these private jets that are lying down fallow in this modern and, of course, attractive infrastructure that you have, to attract new and additional resources to the state? And that is why I'm very happy with the recent tax regime. But again, what I need to see is that the aviation should actually be able to develop its own plan to tax more people who have all of these as part of efforts to regain revenue. Fundamentally, we need to deal with cultures that is already creating an image problem for the country.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salahuddin, for that very explanatory insight into your concerns of infrastructure development. And you have raised very key infrastructure concerns, which also includes the basic and deep culture that we have in our local and international airports. But I would take this to Olumide. As someone who is deeply involved in the aviation safety and oversight, what would you think? He mentioned 3 concerns, but what would you think are your own top 3 infrastructure gaps that you think that this investment, this large money, must urgently address?
Well, let me thank Dr. Safshuddin. I think excellent. His presentation was very good, and I was happy to see somebody not in the industry looking beyond the facelift. What are the other benefits? Commendable, doctor. And I think that's the way to go. That's the key question that the government needs to look at, because it's just not bringing out in investing in a project and not seeing the benefits coming in. Yes, for airport and like airlines, the profit margin is not in the short run. So it's not for those who want to make quick creep and turn around. No, it's take a long time. It's like a marathon race. But you must, during that period, carefully manage your assets allow professionals to run it, maintain, because you must also maintain, keep us for maintenance and future expansion. But as passengers begin to grow, so also we do need to expand, and that's why it's that almost in every part of the world where they have aviation and an airport and where they are going, you can see that they are always maintaining. Today, ITRO is talking about building a third runway now and putting a terminal at that same airport, and going to cost them some millions of money, despite all the successes that are attributed to ITRO Airport. Ethiopian government are going to build the biggest airport in Africa, looking at how they could process about 25, about 30 to 50 million passengers. So airports are an ongoing project, and there's always room for expansion. That's why they take a lot of land and use that land as expansion goes. Unfortunately, when you look at our states, our states get a big land, and from the beginning they intend to use it. That's why they spend so much money building massive terminals that are not utilized. They build the longest runway, competing on who has the longest runway for airport that you have less than 1 million passengers per year. So airport lots are kept, and as business begins to expand, then you begin, and when I mean business, both cargo and passengers, and then you begin to now expand the facility and so as to meet up with the expansion of services. But coming back to the issue why we are here because of the Lagos Airport. Lagos Airport is the flagship of the Nigerian aviation. Again, it's also generates close to 40% of the total revenue of FAN. So that's an airport that is needed to develop, to springboard the aviation development in Nigeria. You cannot develop aviation without an airport, because the aircraft must have a place to land. The passengers must have a place to board. And a passenger that comes to board must be comfortable, must be with the environment. He must feel happy to fly through that airport. At the time, Lagos was losing passengers to Abuja, because people were not happy with the processes, facilitation process within the
I think Olumide's network is having the best of him right now. But yes, he has also addressed... Okay, yes, Olumide, we can hear you.
Okay, now, because you need Lagos, the hub, to springboard the aviation development. You can imagine that we do not have any airport in Nigeria now that has transit facilities for passengers. So how do you expect our airlines to develop when they have to keep doing point-to-point operations, when they can take passengers in and go beyond? So if you bring any passenger that's going outside to another place in Nigeria, outside Nigeria, the passenger would have to pass through customs and come out, get his luggage, and go back again and check in to board another flight to go to another place. And that is not encouraging passengers to travel to Nigeria. Now look at us. Togo here, beside us here, are developing fast because they have an airport that is much better than what we have in Monica Airport. They have transit, and the small Sky Airlines flying for them is able to expand its operations. If we want to help our airlines, our international airlines, to gather more passengers, to be able to operate to standard, then we must be able to provide the facilities that will encourage. It is not the airlines that own the airport. It is owned by government. So the onus is on government to make sure these facilities are up to date. And in doing that, I support it. There's been so much noise about the amount and figure. Everybody keep concentrating on the word terminal. The money is not only for terminal. And I'm happy in your opening speech, you highlighted all the things that need to be done. As most of those are outside the terminal building. You are looking at the skywalk to link the two terminals and the car park. It's a ugly thing in the past to walk all that way to that car park on that road and be pushing your trolley. That's not comfortable. That's not a modern airport. But that's what they are doing now. Now, the second terminal was not allowed to make use of its potentials because it did not follow the master plan. It was distorted. So that second terminal was shrunk down and could not contain big aircraft. So this is what they're going to do now. They're not going to expand that second terminal now and move the two hangars. The two hangars are buildings that are running businesses owned by private individuals. Now they have to move those businesses and pay compensation. All these are part of this funds. So you see that there are a lot of work to do outside the terminal, but let's start with the terminal. And I think I like the statistics. They're coming up to improve the road towards the airport. They're working on the security. They're working on the CCTV. They're working on all other aspects to make it a modern airport. But my challenge here is, when we are done, what happens thereafter? Are we going to allow the airport Are we going to concession the airport to private individuals? Are we going to allow the airport to remain with FAN as FAN is today? Or are we going to look for a reputable airport management company to take over this airport and make it blossom and yield what is expected of the economy? And that is the challenge before us. But again, aviation cannot stand alone. Aviation is part of the economy and it's part of Nigeria. Aviation will only blossom when the economy blossoms, when investors are attracted, when the institutions that are meant to use check and balances can give confidence to investors to come in. As investors are coming in, so also would aviation do its part of propelling this connection and also expanding the economy. And I see, as of today, aviation is just about 1% of the GDP, which is very, very poor. Now we should move. We should start thinking on how to get to 10%. And to get to 10%, you need to have more passengers. Fly your airlines. You should have more of airlines operating, not foreign airlines just operating and bringing passengers. Your airlines should participate and be part of that, or the part of that system, and that will improve and give us what we want to achieve in the aviation industry.
Thank you very much. I like how you have also mentioned that FAN has to be involved, NAMA has to be involved. These are key questions. Do we need external bodies to be able to maintain and create a culture that we can actually be accountable for in the aviation industry? And I've not really been into the learning what the aviation space was like up until some months ago when I started reading and researching about what really happens in the aviation space. And it's quite sad to see that we have been stagnant for too long. And then Lagos being the African hub where a lot of people go in and go out, there's literally a large number. Every time I go towards the international or the local airport, there's a number of people going in and out of that place. But their experiences are always bad. And it's almost like we've left them with no choice because Lagos seems to be like the major place that they can go to. And you rightly mentioned, Olumide, how they started picking Abuja over Lagos because of the facilitation process being very poor. But it brings us to now start to ask, what is the government going to do differently this time? We have seen that they say they want to do this, do that. You asked what's going to happen next. So I think that this question would be directed to the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace. If it could, beyond this story of giving us insights on what will happen to Terminal 1 and Terminal 2, if you could come out and give us details of what's going to happen even after, how long these projects is going to take, what's going to be the, who are those involved? We've seen CCECC, but there are other parastatals that would be involved in making sure that these airports becomes standard, as they have said. But yeah, well, let's quickly take a short break, and of course we'll still return going deeper into this conversation. So do not go anywhere. We'll be right back shortly.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light for my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we will bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we will analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.
Welcome back to the show. You are still watching Politics Uncensored. And now we're taking the flip side of this conversation. We're now talking about what has been happening on social media with the infrastructural development that was announced by the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace, Festus Keyamo. Some critics have argued that Lagos already dominates aviation in Nigeria, while other airports like Enugu, Kano, and Port Harcourt remain neglected. And they are asking, is this investment reinforcing imbalance or focusing where the traffic justifies it? I want to throw this question out to our guests. I would love to start with Dr. Salahuddin.
I think it is very important to also note that investment is strategic. You cannot invest in a place where you don't have any potential to recoup your investment. The question that citizens should also know that, look, I think we should also have citizens' education around development, where people must understand that the government of business must be run in such a way that also projects the country in a very good image. One is about recouping your investment. If you have to go to any other airport outside of Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, for instance, the question would be, what are the intentions? So government actually has an intent. The first intention is actually about attracting investment. And of course, international airports, yes, most of these airports are also international, but airlines don't even go there. That also is something that calls for serious concern, that we also need to expand that bit. Perhaps just like Olumide has brilliantly mentioned, that look, airport investment and infrastructure is actually something that is done in phases, and it takes a very long time for you to be able to achieve your feat. Unfortunately, we did not start 50 years ago. If we had started 50 years ago, and now we should be able to be talking about some other issue about improving most of the navigation systems that we have, improving on modern. But again, yes, we lost ground, but now we are trying to recoup. So citizens must come to realize that it is not about politicizing this whole issue, or it's about understanding where you have destinations for either tourists or business for government to be able to concentrate on there. If you go to Abuja International Airport, for instance, currently, you will see that you will be very proud to actually be a Nigerian. And that is because of the kind of ambience, infrastructure, convenience, and the whole essence of navigational, both digital tools that have been provided. And I think that is actually very commendable that we progressively managed to achieve that. So I think, again, what government can do is that they also, like I mentioned, the issue of strategic plan, phase out their concentration as to what they want to achieve at different airports for the next 15 to 20 years. Then if you have that capability plan, what that can do is help you to fund on an annual basis, either through MTEF, what your priority concentrations should be. But I think Nigerians should also just note that the essence for this kind of investment, basically, is to attract investors, two, to target where you have highest destination of passengers. Just like Olumide said, unfortunately, now we are not even boasting of over 1 million passengers annually. We are talking about countries that are talking about 25 million passengers on an annual basis, which for me is still an issue. The baggage system, all the motorized effort that we have, what are the kind of retooling that we want to do to deal with them? A number of airport users that are very frequent, and I can tell you that because almost on a bi-weekly basis, I use one airport or the other. Your bag, you have to change your bag perhaps every either 2 to 3 months because of the way they handle them. So the way they handle and the kind of system they have for moving those bags also have a whole lot of costs on the passengers. And this in itself is like transferring this additional cost on those people who use this airport. So I think beyond the rhetorics and some politicking, we need to understand that it is actually about being strategic in your investment, which I think is very key. The second one is about commercialization. It's about the viability of some of these airports. If you have to commercialize the process of your investment, then you know too well that you cannot actually plant on a rock where you have some very good soil that helps you to deal with this. The third part for me is about privatization. And Olumide mentioned this very excellently and eloquently when he talked about how we get airport managers to deal with this issue. Over time, we know too well that government handling business comes with plenty of bureaucracy, corruption, impunity, and of course, mismanagement. But if you get private sector who are managers who can actually pull this process forward, I think again it gives the country an opportunity and a potential to be able to say that over a period of time things can work better. And this is happening because private sector driven approach allows for development to be sustained and of course efficiency also to be improved. How we want to deal with this, I think government will have to determine all of these. You can actually see that even motor highways in this country that are actually either public-private sector managed, the level of efficiency and management differ from the one that are just open up for just governments alone. So it is actually, we have gone beyond development being a tool to showcase for dividend of democracy. No, government also must make profits from their own investment, and they must make profits to be able to retool and reinvest that money to be able to sustain the kind of image that we want to see. So by and large, I think we need a whole lot of citizens responsive buy-in and approach to making what development intention government has. I think again government is not communicating strategically. Perhaps that is actually another aspect. Again, it is because people have some level of sentiment over time because of political affinity and affiliation. So maybe that in itself is actually what is fueling those perceptions. If you recall recently, a political party in the region is actually talking about how development has become very lopsided. So it is very easy for people to exploit all of these sentiments for purposes of advancing their argument. But most importantly is that even as a family, you cannot put your own little hard-earned resources in a particular investment that will not yield maximum return for the household. Household investment is deliberate. It is done to keep the family running, and it is done to be able to ensure that the family does not run into any financial crisis. So people should have that kind of mindset in government and use that lens and optic to be able to see that the eyeglass metaphor is something that we must actually put to practice.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salahuddin. And I would like to ask Olumide, I don't know if we still have him here. I think that this conversation has become quite a tribalistic one on social media, where people are starting to... okay, thank you, Olumide. Where people are starting to classify where infrastructure goes because of the person who is in the current administration. And it's quite sad to see that, as Dr. Salahuddin mentioned, that we are majorly sentimental, and because we have certain political or tribal affiliations, we put that as a blindfold to what really should be, in Lagos or even in Nigeria at large. So I would want... first off, if Olumide can address this blindfold that we have as Nigerians as we wrap up the show, and also tell me if there was one advice he would give the federal government that should be a non-negotiable priority for this rebuild, what would it be? Do I have Olumide here? Okay, so would Dr. Salahuddin be able to answer that for me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Olumide, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Yes, I was just able to pick bits and pieces of what you were saying, but and I think.
Once again, we have lost him. Can we have Dr. Salaudin give us his perspective?
But now I don't want to be drawn into what you saw. Can you hear me? Can you hear
yes,
me,
I can hear you, Olumide. You're back. He's gone again. Can we have Dr. Salaudin give us his own insight, please?
To remove this blindfold, it is very good to have what we call transparent communication in development agenda.
Hello.
Olumide, do you have your network on par now? Dr. Salaudin, please continue. We are running out of time.
Okay, so we need to have a transparent communication infrastructure where citizens can also buy into the idea of government. That is very key. Unfortunately, we run in a murky water where for a period of time, the ethnic polarization and the broken political structure that we have in the country has actually now divided citizens across either party, ethnic, or religious lines. But most importantly is that there is always an adage that says that when rain falls, it falls on everybody. That rain does not fall at the doorstep of one individual. When development like this happens, it is actually in the interest of everybody in the country. So it is very important for citizens to also be aware that let us remove every form of sentiment about cost at the moment. I tell people, at a particular point in life, you have to look away from cost and look at value. And I think the value that this particular project would deliver for us, if it is actually done in an accountable manner, in a transparent way, without any form of contract inflation or without any form of intent to, I think it is very good. And it therefore means that it can actually attract some level of investment into the country. That therefore will mean that operators and regulators can have some level of adequate and good ecosystem for them to function properly. The operators know too well that if the investment government had made is actually going to expand and bring them more profit, they will bring more aircraft. Currently in this country, commercial airlines, I'm not sure there are up to 50 aircraft that run across the country. For a country like Nigeria with over 220 million people, I think that is actually far too small. And that in itself does not tell too well that people are afraid to invest because of the risk within the aviation sector. Yes. The fragility in the sector does not allow people to invest. So government must make, and those are the regulators, must ensure that they provide the ecosystem, provide the adequate space, and allow for people to have confidence that their investments are safe. Then people can actually bring in more airlines, more aircraft to the airport. I mean, I was traveling just a few days ago to Maiduguri, and I saw one other new airline that is going that direction. It tells very clearly that people want to put money, but they are simply just afraid if indeed it will yield some kind of value. Yeah, and most importantly, again, citizens must actually be able to understand the way government and governance function. That governance is not about whether or not anybody is favored, but most importantly is about the value of lives of every Nigerian is improved. And I think for me that is very important. Citizens' education is very key. That citizens also understand governance and the culture of government is also very important. On the other side, the politically exposed persons must also realize that, yes, average citizens require detail for them to be able to buy in, which also suggests that participatory decision-making process is very fundamental. I think if we put all of these things in the basket, opportunities are there that will have a system that is owned by everybody, that everybody will participate in, and then, of course, offer us a framework for ownership.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salaudin, and this is all we can take on this conversation. And I know that in terms of global aviation rankings, Nigeria hasn't really fared well in the past decade. So I personally think that rebuilding the Lagos airport can or should reposition us on that international stage, even beyond, the physical structures. And of course, as the federal government now starts to begin another chapter in what's been a long, turbulent flight for Nigeria's aviation sector, the spotlight must remain not just on glossy blueprints, but on execution, transparency, and actual transformation. I think that the Lagos airport, as if done right, could set a new stone for infrastructure. So until next time, this is Politics Uncensored. Thank you to my guests. I will tell you, the viewers, stay aware, stay involved. Before I go, do ensure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV. I'll see you again on Wednesday. Bye-bye.